The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be? Me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your commander-in-chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. A lot to get to on today's show. I want to first start out by wishing you a happy Monday. Hope that your week is going well thus far. We got a big day tomorrow, so I'm going to kind of prep you and prime you for that. I don't know if you guys have been keeping tabs. Earlier today, I probably more like an hour ago, and I was supposed to be doing this over the last 3 days, like kind of one at a time. And of course, in typical fashion, I dropped the ball. And so I just dumped them all out today. But I put out some shorts to kind of remind everyone of the feeling that we had when we first found out that David Blau was going to become our new offensive coordinator, because it's been so long. It feels like forever since they made that announcement, and we haven't heard from him. And we will finally hear from him and Durante Jones and Dan Quinn. And I don't think we're going to hear from Adam Peters. That wasn't part of the names that were given to us as names that we would hear from. But it would be, honestly, we don't really need to hear from him, because he has already made it abundantly clear that every move that's made with the staff is really a Dan Quinn decision. It's not his. He may give input, but it's really not his decision. He's more of the roster. He is not really touching the staff. He's leaving that to Dan Quinn. So we're going to hear from the people that we need to hear from tomorrow. It's a big day, but I did want to throw out there. I did want to throw out a few shorts just to remind you of the emotions, because a lot of people weren't happy when David Blau first got the job. They wanted Mike McDaniel, and now that he ended up being a coordinator, some people went back to that, like, oh, we could have waited. And no, you couldn't have waited. You did. That's not what you really wanted to do. And so I think they made the right choice. I threw out some analogies. We had some fun that night. It was a Friday night. We weren't expecting anything. I had just done a video, went out with the family. I put out a short that kind of, chronicled that. But, there is real excitement surrounding David Blau and Durante Jones. And we're going to get to feel a little bit of that tomorrow, kind of get where they're coming from. We'll talk more about that towards the end of this show. But I did want to start off today's show talking about a couple of house cleaning items as normal. I've been talking to you guys about Jayden Daniels, and I told you guys he's making his round. He was making his rounds on Radio Row. He did it last year. He was doing it again this year. And I told you guys that you would be like, I'm back into my Jayden Daniels Commanders bag, where anytime I see anything regarding Jayden, I just watch, right? At the end of last year, I was so jaded by everything that happened with the season that I didn't have the bandwidth for anything Commanders related. I was so over it. But I've been refueled, right? My battery has been recharged. And so Jayden was making his rounds, and he said some interesting things about David Blau, and I thought those were really, really cool, to hear him talk about their relationship. And I urge everyone to go and watch those different clips, whether it's Yahoo. I'm about to play you a clip from his sit down with them, whether it's CBS Sports. I talked about that one, but you should go watch it yourself. And then obviously I told you the best one, the one that's probably the most revealing, is the Pro Football Talk, which is NBC Sports. That one was about 10 minutes, the longest out of all of them that I've seen thus far. And I'm pretty sure there are plenty more that I haven't gotten to, but I would urge you to go and just hear the quarterback speak, see what he's got to say. But Jayden continues to cape for his boy. And I know we haven't talked a lot about Aiyuk to Washington since the whole blow up in San Francisco. He hasn't formally been released yet. We got to assume that that's coming now that the season is over. They're going to want to get him off the books prior to the start of free agency in the new league year. I don't know if there's any more money that is associated or tied to him. They're going to have to, they've already recouped all of their, all of the guarantees. So I don't know if there's anything that they need to do and if there's a time frame in which they are going to get rid of him. But I know they want him gone as soon as possible. So I expect something on that front coming up in the very near future. With that said, Jayden continues to cape for his boy. I don't know if you guys want him here. We've had a number of discussions. I told you I'm good on Brandon Aiyuk. I don't even know if this guy wants to play football anymore. And having seen some of the things that have transpired with guys who don't love the game over the years, you can tell he doesn't love the game, right? And if you wanting to be out of a situation forces you to conduct yourself in the manner that he has in San Francisco, you clearly don't love the game. You clearly don't love the game. And if it's taken away from you, you could care less. I don't know if I want that kind of energy in our locker room, but Jayden is definitely standing 10 toes down for his boy. I can tell you that much. Take a listen to Jayden Daniels here.
Building the offense together, maybe adding new pieces. You guys added Josh Connolly last year, Laramie at the tackle spots. Pretty exciting stuff. You had Bill at running back. Just one name. You get Jayden Daniels, but he just gets Bill apparently. Is there something is there one little thing that you might want to add on, like a player type? Maybe a little message to your bosses, this is what I like to throw to. We talked last year at Arizona State and at LSU. You got a bunch of cool receivers, but is there one type that you maybe want to add on?
Yeah, there's a couple of individuals that are out there. Maybe somebody from Arizona State in my past.
Okay. Lives on the West Coast.
Yeah, there's people like that out there. I don't want to get too much.
No.
But when that time comes, and hopefully we can sign those type of players.
Okay. No.
You guys all know who he's talking about, right? Like, he couldn't have spelled it out any clearer for you. Clearly, he wants his boy here in Washington. And we'll see if Adam Peters obliges. They've got a lot to iron out when it comes to Brandon Aiyuk, because last year was a shit show. And he did not handle himself well. The exploits on social media, even if you go back to when he was trying to get the contract, he didn't handle himself well then. The whole recording of Jayden and, getting Jayden tied up into all of this because he was, showing shit that he shouldn't have been showing that involved Jayden. He didn't handle any of that well. Like, it was almost like he was doing a full-blown documentary on some Kanye genius shit where you're like, bro, what are you doing? And this whole episode with the 49ers where he basically, there's an entire season going on. They haven't heard from him. He's out here posting pics of buying diamonds and, diamond encrusted watches. And he's out here looking like a motorsports race car driver. And he's doing everything except football. Mind you, this man has not played in a game since 2024. So there's a lot to unpack there. I don't know if I'm comfortable with him being a Commander or not. But clearly Jayden is fascinated by the idea of bringing his guy on board. We'll see what Adam Peters like. Again, Jayden has no control over what they decide to do. And they're going to do what they feel like is best for this organization. And we want talent, but at what cost? We just had this conversation yesterday because of the situation in Atlanta with James Pierce Jr. And again, I'm not comparing James Pierce Jr., who came with red flags to the NFL, with Brandon Aiyuk, who has done nothing of the sort off the field. He does not deserve to be in that same vein. But having seen situations play themselves out, and I liken Brandon Aiyuk to Isaiah Wilson more so than I do anybody that has real criminal issues off the field. I'm just likening him to a guy that doesn't necessarily care about football. I don't know if Brandon Aiyuk loves football or not. I can't attest to that. The actions that I saw from him last season, even if you want out of San Francisco, there's a way to go about that. You can't love football if that's the way you're going to pursue your exit out of San Francisco. That's nasty, what he did. And it takes me to a Genuine song. If you'll do it to them, how I know you won't do it to me? Right? So, I don't know. I mean, I know his boy's here, and this is where he wants to be, clearly. He wants to be in Washington. But I don't know. I feel some type of way. But anyway, I digress. Moving right along, we've been talking about the rebrand of this team in terms of the look, right? They're going to shift the look of the Commanders in 2026. They are going to change some uniforms. We already got an idea of what the base uniform is going to be. They're going back to the championship era threads as their base home uniform. That'll be the white with the burgundy pants that we saw last year. We think they're going to change the alt uniforms, etc. Here's another breadcrumb. They're dropping breadcrumbs, folks. If you're not on it, I'll try to keep you abreast the best that I can, but you got to make sure you're paying attention. I always tell you, keep your ears to the street, keep your eyes wide open. They're dropping breadcrumbs. This was posted by the Commanders on all social media platforms with the caption, "Turn the page." Turn the page was the caption attached to this photo. Let me say that again. Turn the page. They're not just talking about on the 2025 season because the Super Bowl is taking place. They're talking about turning the page to a new era of Commanders football with a different look that is similar to what we looked like in the past. And then you see the imagery attached to it again. Tip of the spear. You see that imagery there with the logo. Again, more breadcrumbs being dropped. Then you see the uniforms that they're standing at the tunnel with as they're about to enter the field. The championship era threads. They're giving you clues. As our girl Candy likes to say, a wise woman tells us all the time, read your clues. Okay? What are they trying to tell us? They're not trying to tell us anything. They are telling us directly. This is what the new base uniforms are going to be, and there's more to come. And again, the imagery with the logo is telling you tip of the spear is going to be involved in what they're doing moving forward. Played you the audio from our owner, Josh Harris, as he talked about the tip of the spear and, you know, the imagery there and what it revolves around and what the thought process was when they started to use that more and more. Remember the Roman video that we saw last year with them, you know, the hype video that they put out at the stadium as you were waiting for the game to get underway. You see where they're going. Hopefully you're paying attention. This is a dope pick, but it's what's inside the picture that should fascinate you more than the picture itself. But I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't love it. I love these uniforms. When we played Dallas on Christmas Day with these on, that shit brought back the warm and fuzzies, and it was clean as a bitch. I'm just going to be honest with you. I know it's not for everyone, and that's fine, and I get it, but the shit's for me. I can tell you that much. I don't know what the alt uniforms are going to look like. I don't know how they're going to do that. I don't know how they're going to, you know, pull that one off, what it's going to look like. Shout out to our guy Dula over at Dula Vision. I showed you his mock-up, and I told you that he got my vote. You got my vote for that being the alt uniform there, right? Are they going to still have a black uniform? There are a lot of questions, not a ton of answers right now, but we'll get them soon enough. We will get them soon enough. But I digress. So that was a bit of house cleaning. If you hadn't seen some of the one more thing too. I don't know if you guys heard Adam Schefter talking today as they continue to put a bow on Super Bowl 60. He was on the Pat McAfee show. He was talking about Mike McDonald because he's a rock star now. You win a Super Bowl in your second year at 38 years of age, third youngest coach to win a Super Bowl. You turn around that Seattle Seahawks franchise and you do it, like I said, in a matter of 2 years. You're a rock star. And his name is going to be one that we hear quite a bit this offseason, and rightfully so. Talked about it last night. We talked about it in the lead up to the Super Bowl. This was a guy that clearly our general manager, Adam Peters, wanted. You know, I'm calling his bluff and pulling his card on the notion that Dan Quinn was the guy they wanted all along. Bullshit. We knew that they wanted Ben Johnson, and Dan Quinn was like his third or fourth option. I would have to guess. Third, I'll put it at third. I think they wanted Ben Johnson first. When that ship sailed, they doubled back to Mike McDonald. And if they had attacked McDonald first, maybe they would have gotten him. But they wanted Ben Johnson. Johnson didn't want them. They turned around and said, well, let's go to option B. Mike McDonald was still sitting there waiting. And by the time they got to him, Seattle was interested, and they made him an offer that he couldn't refuse. And so they had to go to plan C, right, which was Dan Quinn. So it makes me feel like while Quinn may have a longer leash than some of you believe, I don't think they're necessarily married and tied as much as I thought before. Like, if he was handpicked by Adam Peters, like, no, this is the guy. I assure you this is the guy. And he made a beeline to Dan Quinn. That's different. Because, again, I think he being Adam Peters is trying to recreate what he saw be successful in San Francisco, a place where he spent most of his formative years as a general manager, and at that point, an assistant general manager. Watching that dynamic, he wants that for himself, a relationship between general manager and head coach where they're like this, in lockstep with one another. And remember, the power was given to Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco, and he handpicked. He had the choice of anybody to bring in as his general manager, and he sought out John Lynch from the booth, who had never been a general manager before. Plucked him from the booth and said, you're my guy. And they've been like this. That's what Adam Peters wants. And if he had handpicked Dan Quinn out of a bunch of candidates and said, no, forget everybody else, that's my guy, then I'd feel a little bit differently. He didn't do that. This was a guy that was down the list that they had to settle on because option one didn't even want to meet with them. Option two spurned them and went to a place where he ultimately won a Super Bowl 2 years later. And then they had to fall back to option three. And so, I don't know. I feel a little bit different about the Dan Quinn hire now. I do, knowing what we know now. And this threw a little bit of fuel on the fire, unnecessarily, but I get it. It's the day after the Super Bowl. Like I said, he's a rock star. But Adam Schefter was on Pat McAfee's podcast again today, or the Pat McAfee show. And he basically reiterated that Washington really, really was all in on Mike McDonald and tried everything, even tried to backdoor Seattle to get him here. And it didn't work, right? Schefter, I would play you the clip, but I don't know, with McAfee being all over the place, I don't want to have any, issues with intellectual property, and what may have you. So I'll steer clear of that. But I will say that Schefter basically said that Washington interviewed him, wanted to offer him the job after they were turned down by Ben Johnson. He went out to Seattle, interviewed with the Seahawks. Washington then called him on the phone, got him to take the call, and tried to convince him to come back to Washington to become their next head coach. And, Schefter went on to say that, obviously McDonald was already in the area because he was with Baltimore, but his wife was a cheerleader for the Washington, football team. So she was a cheerleader here maybe 3 years ago. And then her family lives in the DMV area. So all signs pointed to him wanting to stay in the DMV. He was just with the Ravens. He was up the street. Wouldn't have to really relocate. Her family's here. Everything's in close proximity. And he chose, even after talking to the Commanders a second time, he chose Seattle. Why? Because he trusted John Schneider, their general manager, more than he trusted Adam Peters. That's essentially what, and he should, by the way, but that's essentially what Adam Schefter said. It came down to, who do I trust building me a roster and a team that can help me win a Super Bowl faster? He chose John Schneider. He chose the right guy. He chose the right guy. I'm not telling you that our guy can't handcraft and be the mastermind behind a roster that wins a Super Bowl. That is not what I'm saying. But there are few better in the league. And we talked about Howie Roseman. I don't think Howie Roseman is better than John Schneider. I think Howie Roseman is better when it comes to making deals and trading and acquiring draft capital and things of that nature. If we're talking about identifying talent, find me a general manager better in the league than John Schneider. You can't. You won't. Now, if we're talking about wheeling and dealing like Kevin Nealon, then you got to enter in Howie Roseman into the conversation. But he basically said, I trust John Schneider more than I trust Adam Peters. And his conviction was right. So, yeah, that I'll just say, over the last month and a half or so, my vision of DQ and where he fits into all of this has changed. I will tell you that, because I was under the assumption that, obviously, I thought we wanted Ben Johnson. But after Ben Johnson fell through, I knew we pivoted to Mike Macdonald, but I didn't know how, hard we went after him. I didn't think we did. I thought that it was close between the two former defensive coordinators, right? And Adam Peters wanted to pair himself with a veteran who had done it before. So I thought that DQ was more handpicked than anything else. No, DQ was a fallback option. They didn't give a shit about first-time head coach. If that were the case, they wouldn't have went after Ben Johnson. So, that whole war, I think I wanted to believe that after the 2024 season that Dan Quinn turned in, I think I wanted to believe that whole notion of, oh, yeah, they never wanted to put a first-time head coach with a first-time GM. Bullshit. They wanted Ben Johnson. We wanted Ben Johnson. That would have been a first-time head coach with a first-time GM. They wanted Mike Macdonald, first-time head coach with a first-time GM. Bullshit. Dan Quinn was a fallback option. So now I'm starting to look at him out of the side of my eye like, oh, you could get fired, bro, because you weren't choice A or B. And honestly, I told you already, I'm proud of Dan Quinn this offseason, because it feels like he's moving like a guy that feels like I could get fired. He's not moving like a dude who's comfortable. And I like that. You have done nothing here to be comfortable. Yes, you took us to the NFC Championship game. I think most fans, though, would say this confidently. You didn't do that. Jayden Daniels did that. Okay? You were a mere passenger. You didn't do that. Jayden did that. And as crazy as that sounds, because DQ deserves credit, he was really good his first year here. He was great as a motivator, which we think he can do at a high level. He was great in game, right? He didn't waste timeouts that first year. He knew when to throw the challenge flag that first year. It felt like he had a good handle on how to manage games. We were excellent before the halves. At the end of games, we were prepared. You got to give DQ credit. That first year, everything fell into place. He was over-prepared. Our team was over-prepared for those big moments. Can't take that away from him. This past year, second year, everything flipped. It was the polar opposite of what we witnessed in 2024. DQ has to get back on his shit this year, and I think he has started that process by hiring guys that are smarter than him. Hiring young, innovative guys that may be smarter than him. And when I say smarter than him, not necessarily football, intellectual-wise, but I'm just talking about where we are right now, and the times are changing, and you have to adapt and change with them. And if you don't, you get left behind. I think he is realizing that, and he's getting guys that are younger that can adapt and adjust and also can relate to these players at a different level than he can. DQ's in his 50s, man. Like, it's called a spade a spade. We're seeing this evolution of the NFL with these younger coaches, bro. Who are we kidding? There are a handful of older coaches that resonate with these players. Just a handful. Andy Reid is one of them, clearly. Sean Payton, I think, resonates with his players, even though it seems like him and Bo Nix get into it every other week. But that's just their dynamic, right? Peyton's never been one to shy away from conflict and a confrontation. And Bo Nix is like, I don't care. I'm not here for the bullshit. If you want to go toe-to-toe, I'll go toe-to-toe with your ass. Because you need me just like I need you. But you look around the league, man, these old-ass coaches, they becoming a thing of the past. Pete Carroll got one shot, and they moved on from his ass so fast, it'll make your head spin. He got knocked the F out like Mike Tyson, bruh. These old-ass coaches, it's over for them, bro. It's a young man's game. We saw it last night. It's a young man's game. Anyway, I digress. So that's the house cleaning. Let's get to what we learned from Super Bowl 60. I always like to do this every year because we're never in the Super Bowl. So we always have a chance to learn, from what we witnessed. Because you know what? I'm not of the mindset, because a lot of people always, after these Super Bowls, oh my God, we're so far away. We're light years away. I'm not of that mindset. I'm just not. This is not baseball or basketball. If this were the NBA or Major League Baseball, I'd tell you we are eons away. We have no shot of competing with the top teams, because there is a pecking order, a clear delineation in those sports where if you plan on winning something, there are certain criteria you have to meet. And if you don't, you will not win. Baseball is starting to get away from that a little bit. You could be a 100-loss team, 97-loss team the year before and turn it around and be in the postseason. And if you got a hot pitcher, a couple of, hot pitchers, because they can control a game, right? When you play in ultimate team sports, which football is, one guy can't control a game. He can vastly impact it. But, basketball, one guy can control a game, right? Now, it's tough because you got to do it on both ends. And if you're expending a ton of energy on offense or vice versa on defense, it's hard for you to do it on both ends. But you can impact the game. Football is different because you could have the best player on the field on offense and he don't play a lick of defense, though. We've seen that story play itself out, too. But when it's all said and done, football is one of those sports where you can change the entire complexity of your football team in one offseason. We watched the Patriots do it last year. And not to say that that's what I expect us to be able to do. And they're an anomaly. And I keep telling y'all, don't expect that. But the thing that gives me confidence, the only reason I bring up New England is because they got a quarterback. We got a quarterback. And if you have a quarterback, that's the thing. When you suck in the NFL, generally you don't have a quarterback. That's why you suck. You don't have a quarterback. If you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a chance. That's why you're the Browns every single year, because you don't have a quarterback. Your defense is really good. Doesn't matter. You don't have a quarterback. You're not going to win consistently. Denver was awful for years with the #1 defense, top 5 defense every year. Vic Fangio was there. Vance Joseph. They were good every year defensively. Had no quarterback play. Doesn't matter. You don't have a quarterback. You don't have a chance. But we've got the biggest piece solved already, which means we got a shot if we can just fix some of the things that ill this team. If we can just quell some of the concerns, we got a shot. The days of dominant teams in the NFL are over. There's no dominant team. I think the window has officially opened because for a minute there, it was the Chiefs. Like, oh shit, even if you make it out of the NFC, God damn it, you got to deal with Patrick Mahomes. That shit's over until they reestablish themselves, and that may happen. But I don't think the Chiefs are ever going to be those Chiefs again. At some point, Travis Kelce's going to retire. That's his, security blanket. He hasn't had an elite receiver since Tyreek Hill, but he always had Kelce. Well, that is coming to an end here soon. Mahomes looks human. The AFC has all these quarterbacks, but none of them win. No one's afraid of the AFC anymore. Drake May came out of that conference this year. The NFC is as wide open as it's been. The Eagles seem to be in flux right now. 49ers got to figure out who their coordinator is going to be defensively. They've had issues in the past figuring that out when it hasn't been Robert Saleh or DeMeco Ryans, right? We'll see if they can figure that out. Lions are kind of transitioning because they haven't figured it out since Ben Johnson left. It's open. It's open. Again, Seattle played really well, dominant defense. They're not going anywhere, but Sam Darnold is still their quarterback. He still led the NFL in turnovers. We'll see if the light just comes on and all of a sudden he starts taking care of the ball and he's a different dude. He may be. This may have been his Baker Mayfield moment. He's back like cook crack, and all of a sudden he's turned into one of the better quarterbacks in the league. And if that's the case, then, oh shit, Seattle might be that team in the NFC. Rams aren't going anywhere. But guess what? Those teams can be beaten. And we've seen this team go on the road and defeat teams that were, quote unquote, better than them. We know the Lions were supposed to be better than us. Went into their house and smacked them around and put up a 40 burger. So I'm not of the mindset that, oh, we're so far away after watching this Super Bowl. Nah, that's not my thought process. Might be yours, and I can't knock the hustle. I will tell you this, though. Here are the things that, and I want you guys to leave it in the comment section. If you're watching this on playback, leave it down in the comment section. Can't wait to read your responses. If you're live here, throw it in the comment section. Keep the conversation going. You want to super chat? We can discuss some of the things that you saw that you think are important, etc. But here are the things that I feel like I learned. And some of these aren't things that we learned. We knew these things already. It was more of a reinforcement, right? Some of these are reinforcements. Others are things that I feel like I learned. And then some of it is just conviction. Like, okay, nah, I've been feeling this way. Last night confirmed it for me for sure. Like I'm convicted that this is the right thing. They did the right thing here, right? So the first thing was obvious. We didn't learn this last night. It was just confirmation of this. And JLG brought this up last night on the post-game show for the Super Bowl on overtime. He basically said, what we've learned the last 2 Super Bowls is if you can rush the quarterback with 4, play coverage, you win the Super Bowl. It's not that simple, but yes, absolutely. The first takeaway from last night's game for me is you got to be able to rush the quarterback. Now, how you do it, I don't really give a shit. The rushing 4 is ideal. It means that you've got 4 guys and you don't have to have, and I'll take it a step further. And this is something we learned last night. Because in the past, there've always been some sort of an elite guy or two on the, you don't have to have an elite player on your, front. If you got 4 guys that get it, that are dogs, 6, 7 guys, because they had guys like Boye Mafe, second round pick out of Minnesota, coming off the bench, giving them juice. Second round pick, Derek Hall, he had 2 sacks. First round pick, Byron Murphy, 2 sacks. DeMarcus Lawrence getting pressure. Boye Mafe getting pressure. Boye Mafe is off the bench. They were coming at him in waves. They had a white dude that was like a 4th or 5th or 6th or 7th round pick. Bull rushed the shit out of their guard, put him in the lap of Drake May, and then grabbed Drake May and threw his ass on the ground. Never heard of this white dude before. Country strong, though. They came at him in waves last night. Then there's the other method Seattle used. Blitz the draws off of them until they stop the shit. Blitz them. See if they can pick it up. It wasn't just 4-man rushes last night. And that gives me confidence, or at least hope, that Durante Jones can help turn this defense around. Because it wasn't just 4-man rushes last night. That's what the Eagles did last year to the Chiefs. They didn't blitz. They just rushed 4 and beat the shit out of that Chiefs offensive line with guys that were just flat out better. Dudes that they allowed to leave in free agency that went to other teams and dominated. Milton Williams was one of the best players on the field last night in a losing effort for the Patriots. They couldn't block him. Josh Sweat went to Arizona and had double-digit sacks for the Cardinals this year. They let those guys leave in free agency. That ain't what Seattle got going on. But it was damn good. But they got pressure on the quarterback. Overarching theme. Overarching theme. Just get to the damn quarterback. Affect the passer. That's what the Seahawks did last night. Really, both teams did that. But there's levels to this shit. The Seahawks did it in a way that impacted the game. 6 sacks, 3 turnovers, one of them going for a touchdown. Like, they absolutely dominated the line of scrimmage. Whereas New England, they got pressure and they avoided big plays happening because of the pressure they were able to create. There were opportunities for Sam Darnold to hit some big plays, and because pressure was on him, he had to elude rushers. He missed opportunities. There's another play where Shaheed is streaking down the sideline, wide ass open, and because there's pressure, Darnold has to get rid of it sooner, and he doesn't get to see Shaheed breaking wide open on a busted coverage. So they impacted the game, but not to the extent that the Seahawks were able to. You got to get to a quarterback. And Durante Jones's scheme, if he's bringing over from Minnesota what we saw the last 3 years from Brian Flores, if he's bringing any form of that, we're going to have a shot to disrupt quarterbacks next year. That should get you excited, or at least hopeful, if nothing else. The next thing that I learned, need more weapons for Jayden. That sounds really, really low-hanging fruitish. I know. But last night was confirmation for that, for me. We've talked about this. This is one of the first things we said after the season was done. Hell, in season, we got to get Jayden more weapons. The minute Terry wasn't out there, it went to hell in a handbasket. And one guy should not be able to tear your entire program down to the ground offensively. But that's not the quarterback, at least. And that's what happened. This offense was totally different when Terry was in the lineup. It was clear, night and day difference. Jackson Smith and Jigba won Offensive Player of the Year, and he missed basically the entire third quarter and some of the fourth. And the offense just kept running for Seattle. Shaheed stepped up. Cooper Kupp was playing well all game long before the injury. He continued to make plays. AJ Barner stepped up. They had other guys that could pick up the slack. Meanwhile, New England struggled because they don't have the type of weaponry. 2 10-year-plus veteran tight ends in Hunter Henry. And Hunter Henry, not a bad tight end, but he old. Austin Hooper, even older. So nobody's just afraid of those two tight ends. They couldn't get separation from these crazy athletes that Seattle puts on the field, like Nick Manowari and Kobe Bryant. They're not creating any separation. Kayshon Boutte ain't running away from nobody. Stephon Diggs ain't running away from nobody at his age. They got Kyle Williams, the third-round pick wide receiver that they drafted, or a second-round pick, one of the two, out of Washington State. He can fly, but they weren't looking to get him involved in the game. And Mac Hollins ain't running away from nobody, but he made some plays. But it's still Mac Hollins at the end of the day. The bottom line is they need more weapons. They needed more weapons in New England. We watched. It ain't like Seattle defense has been like this immovable object this season that, oh, you can't run it, you can't throw it, they get after your quarterback. We just watched Matthew Stafford 2 weeks ago tear his boys to shreds. Matthew was dealing on these boys. You can throw the ball against them. You just got to have weapons. It ain't going to be easy, but you better have some weapons. We showed up against Seattle to a gunfight with a bunch of butter knives. You saw what happened to our ass. Same thing happened to San Francisco. Same thing happened to New England. You can't show up to a gunfight with a butter knife. We got to get more weapons for Jayden. That's non-negotiable. That's non-negotiable. There are options available. I don't know if y'all heard the rumor. I'm starting to believe it, though, because I've heard it from multiple outlets that Adam Peters isn't okay with our tight end room as is. They want a pass-catching tight end, which may be an admission that, oh, yeah, we dropped the ball on. Maybe the second round was a bit too early for Ben Sinnott. I think they're admitting that. They better figure out, and that's another reason why I think they're changing their offense. Because Ben Sinnott, he drafted Ben Sinnott to be Kyle Juszczyk. He told us. I told y'all, and then he told us. And y'all don't want to hear the shit. Is the second round too early for Kyle Juszczyk? Yeah, probably so. Yeah. Hands up. You got me on that one. I got nothing for you. But Kyle Juszczyk is a very good football player with a very specific set of skills. And if utilized correctly, he's a problem and a weapon. And the offense we ran with Cliff Kingsbury was never going to utilize him in the way that they drafted him to be utilized in. So while Ben Sinnott is technically a tight end, he's a Swiss Army knife. He's more of a fullback than he is an H-back than he is a tight end. They got to go get a tight end. And I've heard this from multiple outlets, including John Kahn. They want a pass-catching tight end. And I trust John Kahn. I think we're going to get us one in free agency. Fingers crossed. And it better not be. I'm not going to put that in the atmosphere. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Shout out to Rio. Anyway. Next thing that I learned. Running the football is important. Duh. So is stopping it. Once again, duh, Louie T. Okay, I get it. But still, seeing it is pretty big, right? last year, the Eagles were dominant, both stopping the run and running the football. That's a huge part of why they won the Super Bowl. Massive reason why. This year, Seattle was dominant at stopping the run, and in their postseason run, they were the best at running the football. Again, I'm not saying you have to replicate that, but what we can't be is what we've been, which is like we still haven't had a 1,000-yard rusher since Antonio Gibson in 2020. And he barely was a 1,000-yard rusher. Like, we haven't had a legitimate 1,000-yard rusher. Like, when's the last time we had a 1,200-yard rusher here in Washington? When's the last time we did that? When's the last time we had a guy rush for over 100 yards 3 times in a single season? Like, there's just things we don't do running the football. We just don't. We'll run for 250 yards collectively as a team. We did that multiple times last year. Shit, we were a top 5 rush offense, right? But most of it is, okay, this guy has 43, this guy has 72, Jayden or whoever's at quarterback had another 60, and then this guy over here threw in another 24. And you look up, oh shit, we ran for 222 yards. That's what's up. But to just turn around and hand it to a guy, I mean, how many 100-yard efforts did we have this year from our running backs? 3, maybe? Maybe? I hope. I don't know if we had 300-yard rushing efforts from our running backs this year. When Brian Robinson Jr. was here, he barely ever got over 100 yards. Barely. He never topped 1,000. And then we know the last 2 years, we've sucked at stopping the run. We started out this year with such promise. When we were actually healthy, we looked like we had fixed the run defense. Then everybody got hurt. And it went back to being a team that couldn't, and we never had speed, right? We still never fixed the issue of team speed defensively. So you can still hurt us on the edge. Like, I just don't know why teams decided we're going to try to run up the middle in the teeth of this defense where their strength is with, Daron Payne and Javon Kinlaw and Eddie Goldman. We're going to run up the middle. Yeah. It was only until like the Bears started attacking our edges in week 6 that teams were like, oh shit, that's right. They can't stop the run on the outside. Let's go to the perimeter. And then it just turned into a shit show all over again, like the year before. We got to stop the run, and we got to be able to run the football. Hence, David Blau is entering into the equation because I think they feel like he's going to help the run game, help the play action fake and the explosive plays potentially off of it. And then we got to stop the run, man. We got to stop the run better. Part of the reason why New England lost the game last night, couldn't stop the run. Couldn't stop the run. Next key, or not key, the next thing that I learned from Super Bowl 60 as it pertains to our Commanders. This is a big one because I've been yelling this from the mountaintops, but yesterday was definitely confirmation of what I already believed. Our special teams is ready to win the Super Bowl with one tweak. Place kicker. Now, we may ultimately have that guy already. He came here last year and he didn't miss a single kick. Not field goal, I should say. I don't think he missed the extra point off the uprights. That was a super windy day. He gets a break from me. And then I love the fact that he corrected himself on the next kick to adjust for the wind that took his football and hit it up against the upright. So Jake Moody might be the man for the job. I'm hoping that he's been at 2 different locales, including where he was drafted and it didn't work, goes to Chicago, kind of rebuilds a little bit of his confidence. Now he's in Washington. He's figured the shit out, and now he's ready to be here for the next 9, 10, 11 years. and become one of those Jason Myers type kickers that we just saw in the Super Bowl, set the record for the most points by a place kicker in Super Bowl history. Seahawks have a Super Bowl caliber special teams unit. And that was a huge part of why they won the game last night. Their punter, Michael Dixon, the best in football, showed it last night. Their coverage units were outstanding. And Jason Myers was money. Rashid Shaheed is as dangerous as it gets. We have all of those components except the place kicker. And we may have him in Jake Moody. But our coverage units are top-notch. Our punter is capable. I don't know if he's coughing, kicking, and doing the shit that Michael Dixon did yesterday. But we know Tress is one of the better kickers in the league. So we trust that he'll get the job done if we need him to pin somebody inside the 10-yard line, inside the 5. We know he's capable. And you can say all the shit you want about Jalen Lane and that selection. His ass can return punts. And Luke McCaffrey might not run the bitch back for a touchdown on kickoffs, but his ass can get the shit out to the 40, 45 midfield. That's for damn sure. Our special teams unit is ready to win a Super Bowl, as is. Now, we may have to break some of that down to upgrade the defensive roster. I'm okay with that. We got enough fiends. We can sacrifice one or two. We got enough fiends that we can upgrade the defense and not have it be at the expense of special teams. But right now, our special teams unit is ready to win. We saw a clinic on special teams last night, and our special teams is just as good as theirs, minus the kicker, of course. This next one, again, I kind of led with this earlier when we talked about Mike McDonald. He's a rock star. But we need young, smart play callers is the next thing that I learned from last night's game. Seahawks are going to lose their offensive play caller, Clint Kubiak. He's going to go be the Raiders head coach. Eagles last year lost their young, smart play caller. And I don't know if you kept tabs on the Saints last year. They actually were playing really good football with Tyler Shuck at the end of the season because of their young, smart play caller that Dallas discarded and acted like he was the worst thing ever in Kellen Moore. That's what the league is, man. You need young, smart, innovative guys. Mike McDonald is that defensively. And look, you can talk shit about Josh McDaniels. He won Offensive Assistant of the Year in the NFL. You say what you want about him. He ain't no damn head coach. But that mother effer can call some plays. He can call some plays. He can draw those holes up. He put Drake May in a position to be successful last night, and Drake May wet the bed. You need smart, innovative coaches. Let's hope that DQ just solved that conundrum here in Washington by hiring Durante Jones, Eric Henderson, David Blau, among others. Let's hope he solved that conundrum here as he continues to revamp this staff and get younger. This one is a big one for me because a lot of people had a lot of shit to say, and I get it. When you see Nick Manowari running around making plays, you feel some type of way. Just like last night, you couldn't help but watch Gonzo making plays and think he should be here with us. He should be ours. We got nothing to show for that draft, that first round. He should be here. So you say what you want about the Josh Connolly Jr. pick. But we got that shit right. And we've got an important piece of the puzzle solved. I learned that from last night's Super Bowl. it's so easy to get distracted from the trenches because it's not sexy. You draft an offensive tackle in the first round, and they're going to show you clips of this guy sliding his feet. Look at him recover after getting beat initially. Look at his power here in the run game. That shit ain't sexy on draft night. For some of you, you may get an erection watching that shit. I don't. That shit doesn't move me. But it's necessary, especially when you got a franchise quarterback. You got to protect him. What we watched Drake May be subjected to last night, I don't ever want to see that shit for 5. Ever. Will Campbell got his ass filleted, sauteed, laid to the side, red beans and gravy. I ain't too lazy. He got his ass whooped. So much so that this man didn't even want to face the media after the game. Gave up a Super Bowl record 14 pressures last night, did Will Campbell at left tackle. 4th overall pick. We took our guy at 29. You say what you want about Josh Conley Jr. Say everything you want. I feel the same way Rigo's Rag does on X. After watching the game last night, this is what Rigo's Rag tweeted out. Be thankful we got one thing. Bookend. That shit that happened to Drake May last night ain't happening to 5. Now, I will tell you this. I'll tell you this much. We might have to shore up the interior of our offensive line. Because they were getting beat on the edges. They were getting beat inside. There's a lot of shit going on up front that they just weren't picking up. And when Jayden got hurt last year from pressure, a lot of times it was the interior. It wasn't the guys off the edge. The first time he got hurt, that was Josh Conley Jr. against Green Bay in week 2. That was early Josh Conley figuring shit out, getting his ass whooped by elite players week in, week out. That was baptism by fire. I don't blame the young man for that. They knew they should have helped him out. And they put that young man on an island and said, figure this shit out. You a first-round pick. Figure this shit out. And eventually he did. And whether that means I got to hog tie a dude to keep him from hitting my quarterback and pick up this holding penalty, or, I got to tug him a little bit, then push him and get away with the shit. Whatever I got to do, I got to figure it out. I'll figure it out. And he did. But when he got hurt against Dallas, when he got hurt against Seattle, it was interior pressure. We know what we have in Cosme. Biotish is really solid. At some point, because he's getting older, you may have to upgrade that one. Although I think Biotish is just fine. It's a big year for him. Biotish, I'm speaking of. It's the last year of his contract. He signed a 3-year deal here. It's the last year of that. If he plays really well, I'd have no issues bringing him back. If he doesn't, and we see decline in his play, you may have to draft a center next year, maybe even this year, right? Start grooming a guy. Who knows? Maybe Brandon Coleman's your future center. Who knows? Got to find a way to get, because they may decide Chris Paul is still a good fit, even though he's not the athlete that Coleman is. And if you're running a ZBS, you need to have athletes on your offensive line. Chris Paul doesn't look like he checks that box. But if they figure out that, no, he's exactly what we need at guard, maybe Brandon Coleman is your future center. I don't know. But they got to figure the shit out. But one thing we don't have to figure out is tackles. And I think our offensive line is in a really good spot. And the difference that I watched last night between the two teams, while Seattle's interior was tested and Milton Williams was kicking their ass, Sam Darnold didn't have to worry about the edges because Seattle drafted Charles Cross to be their tackle. And they drafted 2 young tackles, and both of them stood up tall. And New England's didn't. Both of their young guys on that left side were getting harassed. which led to Drake May being abused. So I think we got it right. I think we got it right with Josh Connolly Jr. He doesn't have to be a Pro Bowler to help you get to a Super Bowl and win one. He just has to be good enough at his job, and I think he's going to be exactly that. Will Campbell looks like his future might be at guard. Been there, done that. Top 5 tackle, turn guard. Looks like they got a guard, not a tackle, and they still are on the prowl for a tackle. Another learned lesson last night. Safety play must be improved. Ditto for cornerback. Again, this was one of the hot button topics toward the end of the season for this team. Is Jartavius and others disappointed week after week after week? So I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know, but we watched 2 teams with young, dynamic safety play last night with a smattering of veteran leadership. Seattle has Kobe Bryant and Nick Amanawari, 2 young studs. Again, Kobe Bryant is a free agent. Don't know what they're going to do there, but if they're not interested in bringing him back, can't bring everybody back. I'm looking at the Seattle Seahawks store. I'm looking inside like, hey, when y'all opening up, man? What time I need to? Hey, I'll stand outside in line when y'all opening up. Because there's some shit at that Seahawks store that I'm interested in. Hey, is that for sale over there? Oh, you're not? Okay. Just wait until y'all open up. All right. I'm outside. I'm outside. I'm first in line. But they also got a veteran in Julian Love. Had to pick last night. They just got really good safeties everywhere. Solid corners. Josh Jobe isn't elite. Neither is Reek Woolen. They're not elite, but they're solid. But they got elite safety play in Seattle. Did you see Kobe Bryant? He was everywhere. He was ubiquitous last night. I think I used that phrase last night. He was everywhere. Every time they tried something quick, you saw 8 lighting somebody up. They tried a little quick RPO to the tight end, Hunter Henry up the seam, and it was slightly behind him because Drake May was off. And what happened? He got lit up by Kobe Bryant. They tried the 2-point conversion over the middle of the field, and what happened? Hunter Henry got lit up by who? Kobe Bryant. He threw the jump ball into triple coverage to Mac Hollins. Kobe Bryant almost picked it off. He was everywhere, bro. He was everywhere. Safety play was really good for New England, too. They had a 4th-round safety, Woodson, that they had. Rookie. Everywhere. Everywhere. And we know about their corners. They signed your boy from Detroit in free agency, Carlton Davis. And then they had Gonzo. If not for Gonzo, they would have given up 50 points last night. The Shaheed play would have been a touchdown. The one to JSN before halftime would have been a touchdown. And that was a poorly thrown football, the one to JSN before halftime. He was beaten on that play, but he made up for it. We have to improve our secondary, corners and safeties. Again, I don't expect it to be elite. It just has to be better than what it is right now. And honestly, you might be able to get by at the cornerback position. You still need to add at least one guy to the mix, but you might be able to get by if you stay relatively healthy at corner. You got to improve the safety position. That's a non-negotiable. You got to improve the safety position. Witherspoon, somebody in the comment section. Witherspoon is a stud. Absolutely. He's a monster. He's a monster. We don't have anything that plays that way. We don't have anybody that plays that way. He's everything I wanted Mikey to be, but he isn't. And he will never be. But Mikey can be a Devon Witherspoon light. He can be a great value version. Just got to use him right. And last but not least, this is what y'all been waiting on. And as much as I don't want to get into this with y'all, I said this last night. You know we got to talk our shit, right? Hey, we got the best quarterback out of the 2024 draft class. I said I wasn't going to engage, and I'm really not. Because what is understood doesn't need to be said. But oh shit, keep the party going, man. Go ahead. Turn that water into wine. Damn it. Our guy's the best out of that group. I had to do it. Because I heard the Jayden slander, and I heard, I'm so glad y'all didn't get Drake May. Shut up. And look, I've said this before. Drake May, Jayden Daniels, and Caleb Williams are all super talented. Throw Bo Nix in that mix as well. They're all going to be successful in this league. Comparison is the thief of joy. We don't have to do this. But we do. Just this one time. For me, I want to stop doing this. Okay? Because I don't need this. I don't need this. I am confident in my guy. And if you're a Patriots fan, you should be confident in your guy. And if you're a Bears fan, you should be confident in your guy. I said that last night. Everybody should be caping for their guy because every one of those dudes has done something for their respective franchises in the first 2 years of their career. And it looks different in every locale. However, I had to do it. QBR for the 2024 draft class of quarterbacks. Jayden played in 3 games, his QBR. And this is what I had to continue to convey, because even in the loss against the Eagles, Jayden played well. The completion percentage wasn't ideal, right? It wasn't a great night from a completion percentage standpoint. He tried to put on the cape because the defense wasn't any good, because his teammates were fumbling the football and turning it over. He tried to put on the cape. And really the completion percentage got out of whack at the end when he was forcing it. Had to, right? Game was pretty much over. But he didn't play poorly in that game. You can't say that the Commanders lost the game because Jayden Daniels didn't play well. Drake May, they lost that game last night because Drake May didn't play well. The offensive line wasn't any good either. But even when he had time, even when the protection was good, he didn't make smart decisions. He didn't see the field well, and he turned the ball over. Jayden Daniels QBR in 3 games, 84. Drake May's QBR in 4 games. Remember, I said this. Drake May turned it over against the Chargers in Wild Card Weekend, but I thought he played well in that game. I thought he played well in that game. He was not good against the Texans. He was not good against the Broncos, and he was his worst against the Seahawks. This is reflective in his QBR rating. Bo Nix, 64 QBR. He's the closest to Jayden. He's 20 points behind. He only played in 2 games, so a much smaller sample size, right, than a Drake May with 4. But It's not like Jayden has 6 playoff games. He's only got 3. They're all small sample sizes when it's all said and done. But he only played in 2 games. Would have been interested to see what he did against New England in the championship game. Never got to see that. He was solid. He was solid. He was solid against Jacksonville. Or excuse me, he was solid against who they play? Buffalo. And he played Buffalo twice. He played Buffalo in his rookie season. Wasn't very good in that game. And then he played Buffalo again, and he was really solid against the Bills the second time around. And then Caleb Williams, 53 QBR in 2 games. His 2 performances weren't anything to write home about in the playoffs. Although, you know, the throw against the Rams will go down as one of the best, but you gotta complete it, right? And he had a chance. That had a chance to be one of the most epic finishes to a game we've ever seen if he would have completed it in overtime, and then he throws the back-breaking pick. He had a chance to really write a story and a narrative that would have changed a lot, and he just couldn't help himself. And again, you know, my dad argues with me about this all the time. If DJ Moore, you know, keeps running the route, that ball would have been where it was supposed to be, and it wouldn't have got picked off. I just don't think it was a good decision. And I don't think it was a great throw either. I think it was too far out in front of DJ Moore, but DJ could have kept running. Probably should have kept running. But anyway, I digress. I love our guy. That's essentially what I'm getting at here. I love our guy, and I think we got the right one, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the comment section. Before we do that, though, we got to get a word from one of our sponsors, come back on the other side, and then see what you guys have to say.
Sleeper. Sleeper is the best way to experience and connect over sports together. It's a one-stop shop for all of your sports needs. You can celebrate and chat in the games in real time with other users, get the fastest scores, blazing fast news and alerts right at your fingertips. Play in fantasy leagues and win real money on picks contests. So enjoy sports the way they were meant to, together. Download the #1 sports app today. Predict the hottest football stats like passing yards, receiving yards, touchdowns, interceptions, and much more to cash in on your daily fantasy football skills. Use promo code LTN and Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. Sleeper.
All right. Shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring this stream. If you haven't already done so, link is in the description. Click that link, download the app, make sure it is available in your area. Once you've done that and you've confirmed that you are who you say you are, use my promo code LTN to get you a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. Let's get to the comment section, see what you guys have to say, and then we will get out of here. Hey, Scotty! Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. Hey, Scotty writes, what up, Lou? What's up, Scotty? I didn't have much interest in this year's Super Bowl. I told you mine was the same way up until the game. Then I was locked in, but I was the same way. And this one didn't really move me. Watched the first half and Bad Bunny's performance. I have no interest in Super Bowl halftime shows, none whatsoever. So, like, now I did watch it last year with Kendrick, but I very rarely do I watch Super Bowl halftime shows. So I went and took my bath. Usually that's what I do during halftime is I go take a bath because I know I got time. And that's what I did last night. I heard it was a great performance, a lot of imagery. You know, people were really locked into it. I wasn't one of them. But if you watched the first half, I could see why you was like, yeah, I don't need another half of this. What was it, 9-0 at halftime? I think it was 9-0 at half. Yeah, I could see why you was like, yeah, I don't need to sign up for another half of this shit. Because it could have easily turned into Patriots Rams from 2018 and been 13-3. Like that's what it was tracking as. That's where it was heading. So this thing was 12-0 at the end of the third quarter. It's 12-0 when Drake May fumbled to start the, they had tremendous field position to start the fourth quarter because Drake May fumbled on the final play basically of the third quarter, the second to last play of the third quarter. So it's 12-0. So I get why the second half really didn't interest you and you was like, yeah, I'm good. Totally get it. HTTR for life. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. HTTR for life writes, Lou, what's up? Been a minute. I've been super busy. Hey, can't knock the hustle, man. Hope everything is all good in your neck of the woods. Says part of the replay squad still, though. I appreciate that, man. Really, truly do appreciate the support. Get to it when you can. I always tell you, playback option is always available. How was your Super Bowl weekend? Did you enjoy watching Duke lose to my heels? Yeah, that one was extremely painful. At no point did I think we were going to lose that game until we actually lost. I can tell you my stomach started to turn late in the game as we watched the 6-point lead we had dwindle and we got ice cold from the field and we couldn't make a shot. We kind of unraveled there late. But at no point did I think we were going to lose. Just thought it was going to go to overtime and we were going to win because we were the better team. And yeah, Trimble hits the 3 and yeah, that sucked. It was like Austin Rivers hitting a 3 all over again, except we were on the wrong side of it this time. Well, Trimble will always be a part of this rivalry now. That's as big as a shot as it gets. Only thing that sucked is that they didn't get to walk it off. They put off 4/10 of a second back on the clock because it's the perfect ending. You hit the 3, the crowd runs onto the court, storm the court. It's the perfect ending. But yeah, that sucked. Everything else was great this past weekend. Thanks for rubbing it in, though. Thanks for pouring a little bit of salt in the wound. I appreciate it. Ain't no lie. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. We also didn't have any answers for Caleb Wilson. But then again, not many teams have this season. So we're not alone. We'll be ready for them when they come to Durham. No worries. We'll get our lick back. Ain't no lie. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Ain't no lie writes, if Blau is who we hope he is, DQ's days are numbered. I can see DQ moving to the front office in a couple of years so it doesn't seem like a straight up firing. Blau becomes the head coach to keep him in-house. Really? You think DQ could move to the front? I don't see DQ as a front office guy. He strikes me as a coach. So essentially what you're envisioning here is what happened to Tampa Bay in 2020, after the 2021 season, right? They win the Super Bowl in 2020 with Bruce Arians. Matter of fact, this happened after that Super Bowl was achieved in 2020. They win the Super Bowl with Bruce Arians. He was probably a little burnt out, but more importantly, Tom Brady didn't love Bruce Arians' coaching style because he was on Tom Brady's ass. He was talking shit about him in the media. He was airing Tom out. When Tom didn't play well, he would say it, and Tom ain't appreciate that shit. So Tom was like either he go or I go. So they pushed Bruce Arians to the front office because, again, you can't just fire a Super Bowl winning head coach. Man, just literally won you a Super Bowl. Can't fire him. So they gave him a front office position and promoted Todd Bowles to the head coaching job. That's essentially what you're trying to convey here, is that you think that's what's going to happen. I don't know if I buy that one. I don't know if I buy that one. I can see David Blau being the next head coach of the Washington Commanders. I can't see that. But in order for DQ to get the Brad Stevens treatment, one, he'd have to be someone viewed in that light. And two, he'd have to win something here. I don't think, like, Brad Stevens was front office material from the jump. When he was at Butler, he was front office material. And he knew it. Like, yeah, this coaching shit is cool, but I need to be up there. That's where I'm going to be best utilized. I need to be up there. That ain't DQ. He doesn't strike me as the guy that needs to be up there. He's a grunt work guy. He's in the trenches. He's a coordinator, is what he feels like to me. If you move on from him to promote Blau at DQ's expense, it ain't to give him a front office job. It's to tell him, hey, bro, you better serve as a coordinator, man. We appreciate you. Thank you for your service. But you can go. That's a good problem to have because it means David Blau came in here and killed the shit. And we believe in him. That's what I ultimately want. As much as Mike McDonald is a rock star, I don't want a defensive-minded guy as my head coach. I still don't. This is a philosophical belief that isn't going to shift for me. I want my young quarterback paired and married to a young offensive mind, so I don't have to ever worry about my quarterback being disrupted. I can find another defensive coordinator. You know, it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but I'd rather have to find that guy than to have to find an offensive guy and keep changing my offense. I want one offense that my quarterback is comfortable in, and I want him to stay in that offense like Peyton Manning did, like Drew Brees did, like Patrick Mahomes has for basically the duration of their career. That's the shit that I want. Like Tom Brady basically did. He had a couple offenses, though. Started out with Charlie Weiss. But then he had, Josh McDaniels for a while. There was a little brief stint where he left, went to Denver, came right back after he got fired. I just want my quarterback to not have to deal with that shit. So I can see it. We mucked it up once, but it was with Jay and Sean McVay. But again, different set of circumstances. Then we'll see what happens. Drew, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Drew writes, I want Blau as the head coach in 2027 if the offense takes flight. I'll tell you guys, and I was going to put this out as a short, but I was like, I don't need to do this, but I do feel like it needs to be said. So I'm going to play you this one real quick. This is a short from our David Blau is hired video, what feels like a year ago. David Blau's demise just to spite Dan Quinn. Don't cut your nose off to spite your face. If you say you're a fan of this team, be a fan of this team and root for success, even if it means that you are wrong. All right. So basically, what I said there is pretty self-explanatory. You don't have to love DQ. As a matter of fact, you could want DQ gone. You should still be rooting for this team's success. You should still be rooting for this team's success. And if it doesn't happen, you'll get your wish anyway. It's like the equivalent of hedging your bets, right? Nope, I don't want DQ here, but I'm going to root for this team's success. And if they win, great. I'm excited. I'm happy because that's what you should be as a fan. You should be rooting for your team to be successful. And if they're not, shit, we'll get them next time. But if they're not successful, more likely than not, DQ won't be here. You'll get your wish anyway. But don't root for DQ to fail, right? I'm not singling you out, and I'm not saying that's what you're rooting for. But I, too, would love it if David Blau is everything we hope he could be. envision him being. The next Ben Johnson. Great. He's an in-house product. Keep him here. Keep him here. DQ may not know it, but he may be grooming his successor. Ultimately, we don't know what's going to happen. And I've put out a series of shorts that basically, spell that out. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if this turns out. David Blau could turn out to be the second coming in the reincarnation of Eric Bieniemy, for all we know. We have no idea. He could be Scott Turner. We could be looking at him with that same face we were looking at Scott Turner, Eric Bieniemy, Ron Rivera, and all the Jack Del Rio and all these other coaches that we've had here. Like, this is disgusting. We don't know. Or he could be the best thing since Sean McVay. Since Kevin O'Connell. When we all knew that watched him with Dwayne Haskins, God rest his soul, we all knew he should be here. Ronald came in and got jealous. Wanted to hire one of his buddies, like always. Kevin O'Connell should have been here. Well, this time we might get it right. We'll see. Just because, and I've said this too, and I said it during that stream. We said a lot that night. Said a lot that night. That was a fun one. But just because you are a great play caller doesn't mean you're a great head coach. I think we've seen that many a times. Norv Turner, Wade Phillips. If you want to bring it more present day, Josh McDaniels, Vic Fangio, just to name a few. Just because you're a great play caller and an excellent coordinator doesn't mean you're a great head coach. Steve Spagnuolo, I keep going. But boy, would I love to find out. Boy, would I love to find out. Because again, my dream scenario for Jayden is you pair him and marry him with a young offensive mind as the head coach. But that guy has to be worthy of being a head coach. I'm not just looking to hire somebody just for the sake of hiring someone. We've heard the stories of Mike McDonald going into the Seahawks facility and meeting with his team for the first time and having them visualize the NFC Championship game in Seattle and what that's going to be like, and telling them that this is who we are, this is where we'll be, and this is what you can expect when we show up. He manifested their destiny, bro. That's the type of shit I want to be on. Ain't no lie. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, do you think DQ wears his hat backwards to fit in with the youngsters? No, I don't. Does he go home and put on his Tom Landry trench coat and hat to relax? No, I don't think he does that to fit in and try to be cool. That's who he is. It's who he's always been. His hat was backwards when he was in Seattle as their defensive coordinator. That was over a decade ago. This is who DQ is. DQ wears Jordans. That's like his style. That's how he grew up. That's who he is. That's who he is. Some guys are like that. Club 100 TV. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Club 100 TV writes, think we signed Aiyuk / tight end to keep Debo, draft Love, and sign a lot of defensive players. Are you asking me or are you telling me you think that's what's going to happen? I think you're telling me that's what you think is going to happen. You think we sign Aiyuk at tight end, keep Debo, draft Love, and sign a lot of defensive players. I'm torn on what I think they're going to do with Aiyuk. I could easily see him here in Washington. I could see that happening. I do think they're going to sign a tight end in free agency. I do think that's happening. That's a real thing. All right. I'm not sure about Debo right now. I could easily see him being back. Read an article where Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle are trying to convince Debo to come back to San Francisco. And after the way things went here in Washington last year, I could see Debo wanting to go back to San Francisco. They were in the playoffs again, and we weren't. And he came here specifically because we had went to the NFC Championship the year before. So he thought he was going to be able to come here and maybe be the missing piece to put us over the top. And that's not what it was. And he never really built that rapport with Jayden. It never really happened. So I don't know. We'll see. They're not drafting Jeremiah Love. As much as I would love to see it happen, they're not drafting him. And I could see them signing some defensive players. Could see that happening. I think it's going to be a mixture of offensive and defensive players. But the one thing that I'll say out of all of the things that you suggest that I don't see happening is them drafting Jeremiah Love. That's the one thing I don't see happening. I could see them signing Aiyuk and a tight end. I could see them keeping Debo, and I could see them bringing in a bunch of defensive players. I do not see them drafting Jeremiah Love whatsoever. I hope I mean, if the guys that I want aren't there, I would love to be wrong. Pun intended. But I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. That's a luxury I just don't think we have right now. Could change. You know, you sign enough guys and you feel comfortable in where you are, could change. He could be the best player on the board, and they just say, to hell with all of that shit. Let's just get the best player available, and that's Jeremiah Love. That could potentially be where we are at the time of our pick at 7. Video channel. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Video channel. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Lou! Video channel. Side note, thoughts on new J. Cole album. So, full disclosure, I have not listened to the entirety of it. It's two discs, so it's a double album. It's a double disc album. It's 23 songs, if I'm not mistaken. I've probably gone through 16, 17 of them. I'm one that I want to actually sit down and listen, like digest it. So I can't just listen to it in passing while I'm busy doing something, because then I wouldn't be concentrating on the thing that I'm supposed to be doing. And I was picking my kids up in the car on Friday, and that's where the vast majority of my listening experience was happening. And then when they got in the car, I had to turn it off, of course. So I didn't get to finish. I'm going to finish it. What I've heard thus far, I've loved. So far, it's a tremendous project. Worth the wait. But I got to finish the entirety of it in order to give you, how I feel about it. But yeah, it was pretty dope so far. Wrath of God, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, debate over JD5 killed it in the playoffs with way less than May. Give me JD5 any day. May will be okay, but not JD5. Alaskan Commander. Shout out to my guy, Wrath of God, holding us down over in Alaska. Yeah, that was a real thing, and that's going to continue to be a thing. That's never going to die. The conversation between Drake May, Jayden Daniels, and Caleb Williams. That's always going to be a thing. When the Bears are up, the Caleb supporters are going to come out of the woodworks. When Jayden's, up, our Commanders fans are going to be loud and proud. And when Drake May is up, we heard the Patriots fans like, hey, our guy is the best. And other people, getting on that train as well. So, again, I think Drake May is going to be just fine. He's super talented and he's super young. And you see the talent and you understand why the Patriots feel like they've got the right guy. But, he's young, and I think it's easy to forget how young these quarterbacks are. He looked young last night. And, people are starting to try to use the shoulder as an excuse. When they were winning, the shoulder wasn't an issue. So we can't do that. We can't play that game. Had Drake May went out there and went 26 of 33 for 297, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and had 5 rushes for 36 yards and a score, and had 4 touchdowns and been Super Bowl MVP as the Patriots won the game 31-20, no one would be talking about his shoulder. So we can't do that. Can't do that. He didn't play well. Some of the mistakes, some of the things we saw had nothing to do with the physical aspect of the game. Mentally, they took his spirit last night. He was not locked in mentally. He did not see the field well. He wasn't making sound decisions. Again, it's what comes with having a young quarterback. Mistakes will be made. They'll be made. Darnell Kelly, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Darnell writes, all I want is Kyle Pitts, pause, in the offseason. I do think the Commanders will be in on Pitts, but I don't think they're all in on Kyle Pitts. They're not going to overspend for him. There will be multiple suitors in pursuit of Kyle Pitts, and it'll drive up the price. And I do think the Commanders have a number, and once that number is exceeded in contract talks with his agent, they're going to get out and let those other teams fight over him. There are other options available. And sometimes you can either get in line and, be the third in line of 5 teams fighting for a guy, or you could go be in the line in the very front for a guy like an Isaiah Likely, for instance. Go be first in line there. Show him that you want him and go get him instead of being third in line for Kyle Pitts. That's what happened with Mike McDonald. Had they been first in line with Mike McDonald, they would have gotten him. Instead, they wanted Ben Johnson. So they ended up being second, third in line. He'd already interviewed with Carolina and other teams. If they would have gone straight to Mike McDonald and said, you're our guy, they would have hired him here. He would have been the guy. They went and they waited on Ben Johnson, which gave Seattle an opportunity to do their homework on Mike McDonald, and ultimately got him because they weren't first in line. So go be first in line on one of these other tight ends. There's a plethora of them available. There's so many young, good receiving tight ends that'll be available in this year's free agency crop. Go get you one. Might not be Pitts. Wrath of God, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, always spitting the truth on my opinions, my man, Lou. I mean, they're your opinions. I'm just adding to it. You said it. At the end of the day, May didn't play well last night. He didn't play well. And you can say what you want about Jayden Daniels, and not a single one of his postseason starts can you identify him as the reason that they lost. They won 2 out of the 3 that he's played in. And the one that they didn't play in, his teammates absolutely sabotaged him. I watched this man after Jeremy McNichols fumbled on a kickoff that led to more points because Mikey Sainristil decided to lose his mind and hit Saquon Barkley out of bounds on a 3rd and forever that they were going to have to settle for a field goal on, which led to a touchdown. I watched Jayden Daniels with less than 40 seconds to go in the first half take us down the field with no timeouts and get us into field goal range. He was really good in that game. Unfortunately for him, his teammates were not. Now, ultimately, he didn't play well enough, but I don't think he was helped by his coaching staff. Cliff Kingsbury refused to run the ball in that game. Teammates, turning the ball over. And Jayden wasn't his most accurate self in that game either. He missed some throws, including the one that Austin Eckler fumbled on. He had to go down and go down to the ground, which forced him to have to get up, and that's what led to that ball being punched out. Wasn't a good throw from Jayden. He contributed to that loss. But we've watched games where Caleb Williams, you could say, bro, they lost this game because you didn't play well enough. They lost that game against the Rams because Caleb Williams did not play well enough. He was awful the first 3 quarters of that game. Then he turned it up in the 4th quarter, and then he threw the back-breaking game, basically sealing pick in overtime when they were on the move in a position to win the game. They lost that game because of Caleb Williams. The Patriots lost the Super Bowl because of Drake May's play. Like I said, young quarterbacks are going to be young quarterbacks. It's part of the game. It's part of the game. Anyhow, I digress. That is the last super chat. So that means our time is up. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow is a big day. So let me just go ahead and say this before we get out of here. I did want to leave this for last. Tomorrow's press conference is massive. Now, some of it, again, take it with a grain of salt. We've been here before. We've been wooed by coaches coming in here, talking that talk. We fall for it hook, line, and sinker, and then they end up being stinkers. Okay. Joe Witt Jr. got us 2 years ago. Eric Bieniemy got us the year before that. We've been here before. So some of this is going to fall on deaf ears for some of you, and I get it, and I'm not going to try to convince you of anything other than wait and see, right? But I am really excited, as one can be, for a off-season press conference that doesn't involve a general manager or head coach. This is pretty big. They built this one up in terms of how long they made us wait. The suspense, even though they haven't been promoting this shit, they just kind of been quiet and mum on this, but we've been waiting on this shit. Everybody else has heard from their coaches. We haven't. I'm excited. And here's what I expect to hear tomorrow. I don't know if you listen to Jayden talk, but he talked about his relationship with Jayden Daniels. You're going to hear about that relationship, right? I would imagine he's going to talk about his path to getting to this point, his experiences with guys like Ben Johnson, Cliff Kingsbury, obviously, among others, right? Kevin O'Connell. He's going to talk about all of that, right? And how that helped shape and mold him. I want to hear him talk about that. That's what would bring me the warm and fuzzies. He's going to talk about how they're going to build this offense around Jayden. That's what I want to hear. That's what I expect to hear. And how excited he is for this opportunity and how he's looking forward to getting to work. That's what I expect to hear from David Blau. From Durante Jones, I don't know what I expect to hear from him, other than he's a relationship-based guy, which DQ loves. And he's so happy for the opportunity. He's been waiting for this opportunity. And I wonder if he's going to give us any indication as to what the defense is going to look like. Is he going to bring some semblance of what we saw in Minnesota here? What he envisions. I doubt either of these coordinators talk about what pieces they have here. other than the obvious, like a Terry McLaurin, you could talk about Terry. He's not going anywhere, right? But I don't know if Durante Jones comes in here and hypes up a Deron Payne or a Mikey Sainristil or someone of that ilk. I don't know if he comes in here and does that. I think they just stay away from singling out individual players and kind of just talk in generalities. And I'm really fascinated with Durante Jones, both of them for that matter, and what they're going to say. We're going to cover that thing like a blanket here. I'm trying to decide if I want to do 2 separate videos, like one instant reaction and then, a thorough deep dive into it. You know how I take notes and shit. You know how I get down. So if I did an instant reaction, it would be just how I felt. The deep dive is, okay, I sat down, I stopped it, took notes, play. Oh shit, that's a good, okay. Stop it, take notes, and then you would get, my response from that. So I'll figure it out. It might just be one, big video. It might be 2. If I'm super excited, it'll probably be 2. Who am I kidding, right? So we'll see how tomorrow goes, but it's a big day and looking forward to it. And I know a lot of you are as well. So we'll hear from head coach Dan Quinn. Both of the coordinators. Should be one hell of a day. Looking forward to it. Bart Scott can't wait. But anyway, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T here on the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. You guys have a good one. Take care. And I will see you guys next time. Peace.